We say this a lot. You can never have enough pitching. And as in baseball today, there is something that has a lot more value because there is a low supply of it, that being left-handed pitchers. The Mets' current bullpen situation does have 4 locks, but there are still some spots that you need to fill in. The Mets have definitely expressed that they want to keep the options open and a lot of younger, more flexible arms, but that still does not take away from the thought that another proven arm in this bullpen would definitely make it even better than it already is. So alongside Brooks Raley, there is another lefty out there still on the market that the Mets could definitely pursue. So here is one lefty that the Mets should add to their bullpen right now. Now, as for the current market goes, the top flight lefty and Andrew Chafin just signed with the Diamondbacks a few days ago to a 1-year, $6.5 million contract. So the dominoes in this department right now are going to start to fall. Some of the top names out there are Will Smith, who is looking for a bounce-back year coming off of injury, and my good buddy Brad Hand. But there also is one more other lefty reliever who you can use in high leverage, that being Matt Moore, and that's who we're going to talk about today.
The failed starter with the Tampa Bay Rays, had a few good seasons with them, bounced around from Texas to Detroit to Philly, and then last year back to Texas in a bullpen role. Had a very good year. And is a guy who you could use. Again, we made it clear, I'd like a second lefty in the pen. This is a guy who's probably going to want a big league contract, especially with Chafin not getting the bag that we expected. You know, he's gonna fall south of what Chafin and his track record is. He'll have a contract smaller than that. I don't think it could be in a minor league deal, which the Mets seem to be only wanting to do with when they've brought in guys like TJ McFarland to battle for that bullpen job. But Matt Moore, again, is a guy who had a very good year last year. I wouldn't say I would want to be using him as in the high leverage roles, but I have been an advocate saying I want a second lefty, so you can use Brooks Raley a lot more. You know, you could be a little more selective when you can use Brooks Raley because you have that second lefty. If the big spot of a Harper comes up or any other big left-handed bat, you can use Raley in a big situation to have that backup lefty. And Matt Moore is an intriguing option. Again, he's hanging around there, like you said, guys like Britton, Hand, Will Smith, all still hanging out there. So there's a big group of veteran left-handed arms. This is the youngest one of that group. Maybe the most intriguing.
And as he has transitioned into a lefty reliever, he is now in the middle of his reliever prime, as we usually say. 33 years old, he's a former 8th round pick by the Tampa Bay Rays back in 2007. He originally began his career as a starter, like we said, but last year he became a full-time reliever, leading to a huge breakout year in Texas. 1.95 earned run average, 2.98 fielding independent pitching, striking out 27.3% of batters with a career best 0.4 home runs per 9 in 74 innings pitched. So like we said, we obviously have our top 4 locked already in Brooks Raley, Adam Ottavino, David Robertson, Edwin Diaz. But as for maybe adding a middle reliever who obviously does not really shown any interest in, shall we say, the closer role regarding any of your other lefty options. I know you brought up TJ McFarland. We also have Joey Lucchesi coming off of injury as well. We also have some interesting internal pieces that we have not seen at the major league level. Josh Walker, Zach Muckenhirn was also added during the offseason on a minor league deal. Now, adding a guy like Matt Moore probably brings down the opportunities for all of those young pieces. But I think with the amount of lefties that the Mets have gone through over the years, it would be nice to have some depth at that position behind someone like Brooks Raley, who is going to be doing most of the high leverage work.
And we've seen the Mets in recent history that if they have a lefty who's good, they will burn the hell out of him. Look at guys like Aaron Luke, even Josh Edgen back in like 2015-16. When the Mets get a lefty, they seem to burn the hell out of him. And I don't want it to be the fact with Brooks Raley because he does have a team option for next year that we have the ability to have him for 2 years. And if he's as good as both of us expect, I wouldn't like to burn him out in year 1 because he is an older reliever. You're bringing a Matt Moore or any other lefty, but if it is specifically Matt Moore, it takes the pressure off of Brooks Raley to say, hey, you can use him 2 to 3 times a week because guess what? You have another dependable left-handed arm in the bullpen that you can trust to go out and get Bryce Harper or go out and get Matt Olson if they come out, in any other big spot. You could have that second lefty. And let's say, again, if the starting pitching does well, it could give the rest of the bullpen, and the Mets desperately could use a second lefty. I understand why they don't want to have 5 locked-in arms and only have the flexibility to have one release spot for up and down guys, because we expect either Tyler McGill or David Peterson to be the long man and taking one of those spots in the bullpen. You play the game of, hey, if you just get the reliever now, you don't have to pay for it at the trade deadline. You can go for maybe those controllable arms, like, the Yankees make these deals for like these AAA pitchers that they can fix and come up in the big leagues in September and August and produce for them. So maybe if you were to add the guy now, you can go cheaper and maybe younger at the deadline if you can find one of those 4A type pitchers that Hefner can get his hands on, kind of like what the Mets have done in the offseason, and add a few more of those on the deadline to not burn as many assets. The Mets need another high leverage arm to pay the price of a high leverage arm, especially if the marketplace is like last year where the market was hot. So I understand why the Mets want the ability to have the 2 spots, but you could also play devil's advocate of, we spend cash now instead of burning trade assets later.
Now, let me just do a full-on breakdown of my favorite part of pitchers, and that being their arsenal. Now, Matt Moore, after his full season as a full-time reliever, he has a mid-90s four-seam, which he threw harder than ever last season. He's got a vertical dropping knuckle curveball and a high-profile spin changeup with lots of horizontal movement. He's got about average control, above-average command. He does manage contact fairly well with good batted ball peripherals, and he's also been a good high-leverage arm from last year to also for pretty much his entire career. He also is great against lefties and great against righties. We all know that was one of the biggest factors for Billy Epler making the trade for Brooks Raley, but having 2 different lefties that can do the same deed as well with different types of weapons. You have Raley with his slider, and then obviously the bread and butter with Matt Moore seems like his changeup. Not as big of a Hefner pairing as you'd like, but I can tell you right now, if you have a crafty lefty that can throw amazing slider, which is one of the best in the game, and also if you have a crafty lefty who can throw a nice changeup and good off-speed stuff, once again, just adding to your vault of weapons, which I think is something that the Mets should 100% consider. Now, obviously adding more to this bullpen, it's definitely going to cost a major league deal. He did have a great season last year. He's still on the market. Looking at Chafin going off the board and being the first domino to fall pretty much as the top flight lefty on the market, looks like Matt Moore has been on a similar level recently as Andrew Chafin. So let me hear what you would directly offer to him.
I mean, obviously pitchers and catchers are reporting tomorrow as of recording. So again, the pitchers are running for jobs to get solidified, because we saw it with guys like Dallas Keuchel, guys like Craig Kimbrell. Pitchers especially, they need their routine, and the longer these drag out for these guys, there's a good chance they're going to be less productive than you expect. Especially with Chafin setting the market, it's going to be a 1-year incentive-based deal where, he can have a base salary. I think it can be south of what Chafin got at 6.5, so 4.5, let's say, 5 at max, and then put some incentives to make it maybe worth like $7 to $8 million.
As for my offer, I mean, I do probably exactly similar to what you said, but my offer would be a multi-year deal with obviously conditions. 2 years, $11.5 million. Year 1 is $5 million, like you just said, and then year 2 is $6.5 million mutual options. So the Mets have obviously some control over that. Chafin got a 2-year conditional deal where he does have a second year where he could opt out or not, like he had in his Detroit contract. It seems like some of these relievers still on the market are looking for multi-year deals. I think that does get the job done, but obviously the Mets will have some control over the second year. Still fits into your 2-year time frame, like we say with every single move that the Mets are making right now. We'll see what they have in store, but I think Matt Moore would be a perfect addition to this pen. Definitely in his reliever prime right now, and just yet another weapon you can take out of this pen of a guy with actual experience and someone who's had success purely coming out of the bullpen after being a failed starter, as we like to call him.